Will iPhones cost more because of Trump's tariffs on China? The future of iPhone pricing is facing uncertainty as President Donald Trump's trade policies, particularly his tariffs on Chinese goods, continue to shake up the tech world. With iPhones being one of the most popular gadgets worldwide, this tariff situation could result in significant price hikes for consumers. Under Trump's controversial trade policy, Chinese goods, including smartphones, face a hefty 145% tariff, which raises the question, how will this impact iPhone prices in the US? The impact on iPhone prices and global effects. Many of the world's leading gadgets, phones, laptops, tablets, and smartwatches, are manufactured in China, which is now grappling with these tariffs. With Apple's primary production base in China, there are concerns that iPhone prices in the US could increase by hundreds of dollars if those additional costs are passed down to consumers. This ripple effect could also affect iPhone prices globally, especially if the value of the dollar fluctuates due to tariffs, making it more expensive to import devices worldwide. Industry experts, including Ben Wood of CCS Insight, have suggested that Apple may raise iPhone prices globally with the launch of the next model if tariffs remain in place. As Apple operates on a global scale, they are unlikely to maintain different prices in various markets for the same model. However, some analysts argue that other countries like the UK, which have lower tariffs, could see a reduction in prices if manufacturers shift their production lines to avoid US tariffs. Longer contracts, the new reality? Another potential shift in the market could involve longer phone contracts to help consumers manage the higher costs of these devices. While typical contracts last around 2 years, some companies have started offering 4-year deals. It's possible that, in the face of tariff-induced price increases, we might even see 5-year contracts by 2025. It's almost like turning your smartphone into a mortgage, as some analysts predict. Where are iPhones made? To understand the potential consequences, we need to look at where iPhones are made. The US is a major market for Apple, with more than half of the company's smartphone sales in the country. However, the majority of iPhones sold in the US are made in China, with about 80% of devices intended for US consumption coming from Chinese factories. Apple has taken steps to diversify its manufacturing, moving some production to countries like India and Vietnam, where tariffs are lower or non-existent. In response to the tariffs, Apple has reportedly been accelerating its production in India, aiming to counterbalance the reliance on Chinese manufacturing. Recently, Apple even chartered cargo flights to ship more than 600 tons of iPhones from India to the US, showcasing its efforts to navigate these trade challenges. How exposed is Apple to tariffs? Despite Trump's claim that tariffs are designed to encourage US manufacturing, moving Apple's supply chain from low-cost Asian countries to the US is no simple task. The tech industry relies on a global network of suppliers and manufacturers, and moving that supply chain would require significant investment and time. According to Dan Ives, an analyst at Wedbush Securities, relocating even 10% of Apple's supply chain to the US would take about 3 years and cost $30 billion, which would cause major disruptions. Will iPhone prices go up? The big question remains, will Apple pass the cost of the tariffs onto consumers? Apple hasn't made a definitive statement on this yet, leaving analysts to speculate. Some argue that Apple's robust margins give it room to absorb some of these costs without significantly affecting its bottom line. Others believe Apple's strong brand loyalty could allow it to raise prices without losing a significant portion of its customer base. If the tariffs are fully passed on to consumers, estimates suggest iPhone prices could rise dramatically. For example, a China-made iPhone 16 Pro Max could see its price surge from $1,199 to $1,199, while a model made in India could only see a smaller increase of about 5%. However, if Apple decides to make its devices in the US, some analysts predict prices could soar as high as $3,500 for the iPhone. What can consumers do about it? With so much uncertainty surrounding the future of iPhone prices, some US consumers are already taking action. Many have rushed to Apple stores to purchase their smartphones before a potential price increase takes effect. Consumers like Anthony Cacioppo and Julia Bauman, who are worried about the tariff-driven price hikes, have bought new devices in advance, hoping to avoid paying double the price in the future. If prices do increase, consumers may look to alternatives such as secondhand phones or rival brands like Samsung and Google, which offer similar features at lower costs. The secondhand smartphone market is expected to grow significantly, with an estimated 5.5 million used smartphones expected to be sold in the UK by 2025. For those who prefer to stick with Apple, it may become increasingly common to hold on to older models for longer, postponing upgrades in response to higher prices. As Ben Wood of CCS Insight points out, this could lead many to keep the smartphone they already have for longer to avoid paying inflated prices. Conclusion: the wait for clarity. As we await further developments in this trade war, the fate of iPhone prices hangs in the balance. Whether Apple decides to absorb the tariff costs, pass them on to consumers, or adjust its supply chain to minimize the impact remains to be seen. One thing is certain: the next few years will bring significant changes to the global tech market, and consumers will have to stay vigilant to manage their smartphone costs.